For 50 Cent sidestepped his own past critiques of Trump and posted to Instagram about how he would personally make sure Diddy doesn't get any favors from the president.
He hasn't been asked to do that yet, but he said he wouldn't rule it out. He said he'd, quote, look at the facts, noting he and Combs used to have a friendly relationship, but the two haven't spoken in years.
He used to really like me a lot.
He said, if I determine that somebody has been mistreated by the government, I would absolutely consider a pardon.
50 Cent just set social media ablaze with a brutal takedown of Donald Trump. And the reason why is even more shocking than the rant itself. Trump's controversial decision to pardon Diddy has reignited a decades-long feud, exposing buried tensions, power plays, and personal vendettas. What pushed 50 over the edge? And why is Diddy once again at the center of a cultural firestorm? What began as a political move has now unraveled into a high-stakes clash of egos, empires, and histories too long buried.
50 Cent sidestepped his own past critiques of Trump and posted to Instagram about how he would personally make sure Diddy doesn't get any favors from the president. Writing in one post, quote, he said some really bad things about Trump. It's not okay. I'm going to reach out so he knows how I feel about this guy. So far, the trial has featured more than 20 witnesses over 14 days, and Combs faces charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
Trump's announcement to pardon Sean Diddy Combs sent shockwaves through every corner of the internet. What looked like another headline-grabbing move quickly unraveled into something far more explosive. Diddy's legal controversies, from financial disputes to disturbing accusations of coercion, have long hovered without resolution. So why now, and why him? Within minutes of the announcement, Twitter erupted. Some praised Trump for boldness, while others blasted the move as strategic pandering. One viral tweet said, "We're pardoning billionaires now? What about actual victims?" Another hinted, "It's the checkers move before the chess game." The bigger picture? This wasn't just about justice. It was about politics, culture, and power. And for 50 Cent, it wasn't just another headline. It was personal.
You know, The Apprentice. You mentioned once in 2012 that Diddy was a good friend of yours. That's right. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, sure.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You're going to be one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think that people have been very close to asking. And first of all, I'd look at what's happening. And I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. And I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot. I think when I ran for politics, he sort of that relationship busted up. From what I read, I don't know. He didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. You know, it's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So it's not a popularity contest. So, I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
Okay, so wanted to let you listen to that exchange there. That was asked by Peter Doocy, and whether or not the president would consider a pardon of Sean Diddy Combs. The caveat, of course, if he were to be convicted here. He essentially said he hasn't really thought about it. He's got to see the facts, but he didn't rule it out.
Ryan, the pardon power, obviously one of the president's favorite tools right now, flexing his muscles again this week with a series of high-profile pardons, many of them controversial. President Trump just yesterday was asked if he would consider pardoning Sean Diddy Combs if he's found guilty of racketeering and sex trafficking. What did the president say? Yeah, Peter, the president said he hasn't been asked to do that yet, but he said he wouldn't rule it out. He said he'd, quote, look at the facts, noting he and Combs used to have a friendly relationship, but the two haven't spoken in years. Combs, of course, has not been convicted, but he is facing trial right now for charges could lead to life in prison, including sex trafficking.
That is so interesting, because if there are Trump supporters and he makes an insinuation even that the government has overreached, say, in racketeering, they might buy into it just because they're Trump supporters.
It is his government now, right? It's his justice. So his prosecutors were prosecutors. No, they did not initiate this case. But in other cases that they did not initiate, like the Eric Adams prosecution, when his DOJ came in, kneecapped them. They had dismissed. This one, Jay Clayton and the prosecutors from that district went forward. So, that's his DOJ. They had to at least prove the trial, I would assume. I don't think Bondi just let this happen without knowing. So, I think it's just President Trump doing what he does often, which is speak off the cuff. It works well for him, but I think it's all out. There's really too much to it. I'm pretty sure no one has a question.
Yet you said they're close to it. I heard you say that, and Trump insinuated that too. Yes, you did, or a little bit earlier.
I said that's what he was saying. Close to it.
What does that mean?
Close to it. I don't know if that's close. Harvey, I really don't. I have no information. There's a guy on the right that might be able to help us. They can't help us.
That's what I'm thinking. Hey, Mark, I know, Mark, this is a political and not a legal issue.
So, can we go back to 2341 for a second? Why is it in New York, nobody, what are you going to do? You're going to get me into talking about
politics.
It's crazy.
I could say quite a bit about this for a variety of reasons, but I'm going to just, in deference to His Honor, in deference to my firstborn, who I love dearly, I'm going to return to asking Joe what he thinks about 23.1 and why it hasn't been challenged.
I don't know it should be challenged. There's no practical basis for it in here, especially. So I don't know the answer. I really don't. I think it should be challenged, but it's crazy. But you're doing the right thing, obviously, because you want to make sure there's a new daughter. By the way, your daughter's a terrific lawyer. Timmy is very impressed. There's people who are children of great lawyers who become lawyers, and it's not the same.
Boy, you and I know I'm sure we're reading each other's minds right now, but I that's why I take that as high praise for her. So I appreciate
she is. She's something else. I'm very impressed with her. That opening was phenomenal. And it's my opening summations across. It's my daily bread. It's what I love. It's what I study and what I really perfect. And that was a good episode.
350 Cent didn't hold back. Within the hour, he took to Instagram, posting, "Wait, this guy gets a pass for what?" alongside a mocking clip of Diddy in the early 2000s, followed by 50 himself laughing hysterically. It wasn't just petty, it was targeted, and it was years in the making. Their rivalry stretches back over a decade, marked by subtle jabs and escalating tension. From calling out Diddy's fake persona to dragging his business deals as manipulative, 50 has never hesitated to question Diddy's integrity. But this latest reaction felt like a final straw, a breaking point. To some, 50's outrage was about perceived hypocrisy. How could Diddy, a self-proclaimed champion of justice, accept a pardon from Trump? To others, it was a calculated move by 50 to reignite a feud that never truly died. Either way, this wasn't just about Trump. This was about everything Diddy represented.
That he hasn't been asked formally, but it sounds like he said people were sniffing around about possibly doing this. And then in the end, he said, if I determine that somebody has been mistreated by the government, I would absolutely consider pardon. So, Mark, you were right in the middle of the Hunter Biden pardon. I know this. And you knew about it long before it broke, is my recon. So you know something about this or not. You are, in some way associated with the lawyers, and one of whom is your daughter on the Diddy side. Has there been an overture? Because now that I start thinking about it, with the Chrisleys and all these other people, this is not the craziest thing, even though it seems pretty crazy. Has there been any outreach?
Joe, I've got a question for you. Anyway,
that's the hot potato.
23.1 here. I have a question, Joe. I don't understand. you practice in New York, famously practice in New York, and condolences. I think Bernie Kerik died today, and I think you were very close to him at one point. I haven't talked to you about it. If you were, and I think you were, I have my condolences. I don't understand, and Harvey and I talked about this for 2 podcasts, and he slammed me the first time, and then the listener slammed him, so I already did my kind of analysis as to why it's unconstitutional. What is perplexing to me is it was re-upped, meaning they once again had this local rule 23.1, and one of the comments was the dearth or some language like that about any case decisions, meaning nobody has challenged this. Why has nobody challenged 23.1 in New York? You guys aren't shrinking violence. I don't understand.
I'm going to object. I asked a question, and you just simply ignored my question.
You went so far off your question, Harvey. I don't even remember what your question was.
Okay, so hold on. So then I'll address. I mean, I'm sorry, Mark, but you can't. You're just ignoring me.
We'll come around to you.
No. And let's. Joe, can you answer my question? Do you? Because here's what I'm thinking: that he has as much as said, Diddy started taking shots at me when I started running for office, and he used to like me a lot. And the way things are feeling with the backdrop, Diddy starts to like him again a lot. That this could be his safety net. Am I crazy here?
You're not crazy. I mean, look, it's clear from the president's words, and I know how he speaks, cipher code. No one has approached him. He knows that people are thinking about approaching him, and they're thinking about saying something, and they're close to saying something, but no one has. So that's I think a message is basically saying, if you keep the line, if you do what you used to do, which is adore me, we'll consider it. Whatever. He's going to have people around him. They're going to ultimately, one thing about President Trump, he makes final call no matter what. His advisors are just that, advisors. They're not people who make decisions. We'll advise him on that. It wouldn't be a popular case jury this year to do that. But here's the thing: if I'm Diddy and I'm his lawyers, Kenny and Mark and too, this is the last thing I want to hear. This is the last thing I want out before the press with the jury, because God forbid the jury is like, oh, so even if we convict him, he's going to get out anyway. Oh, all right. Well, then it's not that big a deal. He's not going to spend life in prison. He's going to get a pardon, but we're going to convict him anyway because he's proven to be a bad guy. He's proven to be unlikable. He's proven to have done some horrific things. At the end of the day, he's not going to spend life in jail anyway because he's going to get pardoned by the president.
This didn't start with the pardon. The tension between 50 Cent and Diddy is deep-rooted, stretching back to the early 2000s, when both men were shaping hip-hop in their image. Diddy, the polished mogul. 50, the aggressive disruptor. On the surface, it looked like healthy competition. Behind the scenes, it was war. Mai took early shots, mocking Diddy's flashy dance routines and later dismantling his business practices. He accused Diddy of exploiting artists under Bad Boy, famously saying, "Everyone who works with him ends up broke." And then came the liquor war, Ciroc versus Effin' Vodka, a corporate grudge match dressed in club glamour and Instagram taunts. This wasn't about who had the better product. It was about who owned the room. Diddy rarely fired back publicly, but insiders say he never forgot a slight. Their feud became a silent battle for dominance in every industry they touched.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe.
That's not just.
It was a good line. It was a good line.
This line is on camera in A$AP Rocky in the criminal courts building when Lewis said something and said, "Oh, you're going to go get reversed again in the Ninth Circuit for
lying to a jury."
Yeah. Stop with the steroids. And Joe, and I'm listening to beats as well. Hey, hunchback.
I said, John, it's not steroids. It's just eating well. I work out very hard. I eat well. You should try once in a while. Grab a salad instead of a donut, you fat fuck. And you won't have that hangover belly and the hunchback. And that happened to all take place on camera, by the way. Started.
Oh, my God.
Look, I don't start, but I do finish.
Hey, Joe. Seems like the prosecution made some headway this week on racketeering. That you look at Diddy, and you start hearing about arson and kidnapping, especially from Capricorn Clark, where she is talking about, threatened to end up in the East River, that Diddy goes wild when he finds out that she used to work with Suge Knight, takes her to a vacant building for 5 days, gives her a lie detector, with all of his associates. It's feeling racketeering-y to me.
It's feeling Diddy to me. The racketeering enterprise is a racketeering enterprise. It's not a lunatic who is a jealous boyfriend, control freak, not a nice guy, method batterer, someone who acts like a piece of garbage to his employees. That's not what a racketeer is. That doesn't make it a racketeering party. I don't see that as an act of furtherance of a racketeering scheme. It has a racketeering enterprise, which is traditionally understand it's for a criminal organization, right? So an enterprise that's established with crimes. Bad Boy Records in no way, shape, or form was established. It doesn't turn into a criminal enterprise because one person in that organization commits some crimes. So I just still think there's a big gap here where, look, bad guy, proven, criminal, proven, domestic batterer, proven, drug abuser, proven. All those things, they've proven. We're in federal court though, okay? And we have a racketeering sex trafficking trial. And I think we're still void of the evidence. That's why we keep seeing that Cassie video over and over and over again. It's not evidence of racketeering. It's not evidence of anything but domestic assault. It's stuff. But again, I know if Nancy here is screaming at me and saying, "Oh, it's racketeering," or Ashley Banfield
holding up a Tootsie Roll,
Tootsie Roll, whatever that meant. And Ashley Banfield saying, what a racketeering act is, even though there's no enterprise. You really have to understand the law before you can opine on it.
So let me ask you something about that. I get the mafia, has kind of a below.
Not just the mafia.
No, I know, but it's you could have a front organization that seems legit, but underneath it, they're running a drug ring, they're running a hitman ring, they're running something that's a criminal organization. But at a point, could a jury say, look, it's not a specific crime organization, to sell drugs or guns or hit people or do hits on people, but he is using Bad Boy and all of the people under him in Bad Boy to commit crimes, that Bad Boy is being used for Diddy to always get his way no matter what it takes. If they look at Bad Boy that way, if they look at it like it is just a tool of Diddy's to get what he wants at all costs and violate the law.
This rivalry has always been bigger than music. It's about two empires crashing into each other again and again. Diddy turned Ciroc into a luxury lifestyle brand. 50 launched Effin' Vodka and torched Ciroc at every turn, even filming himself pouring it out on camera. Diddy founded Revolt TV. 50 clowned it as irrelevant. 50 produced hit TV shows and film projects. Diddy expanded his cultural influence through business, branding, and political engagement. But behind every business move was a shadow of one-upmanship. When one rose, the other retaliated. From mogul status to cultural influence, each man positioned himself as the alpha and refused to back down. Their feud wasn't just about success. It was about who gets to define it.
You're complaining that nobody's challenged it. You could challenge it. Why don't you challenge it?
If Tenny was not involved, I would do it.
He's right on. I'm
not going to do it with my daughters in the headlights. It just wouldn't. I mean, I've already quipped sometimes when I wish I had taken it back. But Joe, I have another question for you along those lines. Who's not going to jump into the middle of this again and try to shut me down when I ask you. Haven't you always thought that, and I've made this argument, I want to hear if you think I'm out of line, that I always talk about the genesis of these, 23.1 isn't necessarily a gag order, but it's this idea in
recent... unconstitutional, by the way.
Right, exactly. In recent years, it's always of the defense. But the genesis is Shepard versus Maxwell, which hopefully Bailey made his bones on, which was to reverse a conviction to protect a defendant's right to a fair trial. Where in the world did this get turned upside down that now the prosecutors, by the way, have enough handmaidens out in the media cheerleading for them, speaking of which, Nancy Grace and you yesterday, by the way, do you have that clip? You gotta play the clip, Harvey. You cannot let our listeners
go to Tubi. You can watch it for free. It's called The United States versus Sean Combs Inside the Diddy Trial. And it is
okay, so I watched and Nancy was going wild about, what was she saying, Joe, about your eyes?
I mean, aside from screaming, point where I couldn't even understand what she was screaming, I did finally hear her say, "When are you going to start with those wild eyes again?" I was like, I was really being animated and like, "Nancy, you don't know the law. You don't know the law. Oh, there you go with those wild eyes again." And
oh, you like that. Like that.
And no, don't step on the punchline. And you said,
Oracle.
He said, "At least my eyes move."
He did say
this feud has never been quiet. Diss tracks, shady interviews, viral moments designed for maximum impact. In 2005, 50 dropped Piggy Bank, slamming Diddy for riding on the coattails of others. In 2016, he mocked Diddy's Ciroc ads on Instagram. The insults kept coming, and so did the attention. Diddy, ever the master of image, rarely responded directly. He let 50 play the aggressor, maintaining his calm exterior while privately stewing. But make no mistake, every silence was strategic. Their feud has become its own ecosystem, a rivalry that fuels media, drives headlines, and keeps both men at the center of cultural conversation. For 50, it reinforces his brand as the unfiltered provocateur. For Diddy, it elevates his mystique as the untouchable mogul. But behind the drama is a deeper truth. Two men fighting not just over power, but over legacy. This isn't about pardons, vodka, or music anymore. It's about ego, about who gets to sit on the throne. And as long as both men are breathing, the battle isn't over.